Breaking today. The Suppressor and SBR tax stamp just got hit with a nationwide change. And the next move is even bigger because the registry itself is now being directly targeted. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed? Because what I'm about to reveal could save you from a decade in prison. Hit that button now. Here's what just happened in plain English. For years, the federal government has treated certain items as NFA items. NFA stands for the National Firearms Act, a law from 1934. Under the NFA, things like suppressors and short-barreled rifles, called SBRs, come with extra rules. You usually file paperwork, do fingerprints, pass a background check, and pay a $200 tax. People call that payment a tax stamp. Now, Congress passed a change that drops that $200 tax down to $0 for suppressors and SBRs, plus a few other categories. The key date is January 1st, 2026. Starting that day, the tax is scheduled to be $0 for suppressors, SBRs, short-barreled shotguns, and AOWs. AOW means any other weapon, which is a weird legal bucket for certain items. But here's the crazy part. A $0 tax does not automatically mean no paperwork. And it does not automatically mean no registry. A registry is simply a government record tied to a required approval process. Right now, the best plain language summary is this. The tax is being cut to $0, but the NFA process and the NFA registry remain in place for now. That means forms, fingerprints, approvals, and waiting periods can still be there, unless something else changes through courts or Congress. So when you hear nationwide block of suppressor and SBR tax, think of it like this. The $200 bill is being removed, but the permission slip system is not fully gone yet. Now, let me explain why this matters so much for you. First thing, timing can trap you. If you hear tax is dead and you jump early, you could accidentally break the current rules. For example, if you build an SBR today without an approved Form 1, you can still be accused of having an unregistered NFA firearm. The $0 tax starts January 1st, 2026, not today. And even after that, the registry could still exist unless the next step succeeds. Second thing, this creates a legal opening. Multiple Pro-2A sources are already saying the $0 tax creates a vulnerability. The NFA has often been defended as a tax law. So critics argue, if there's no tax being collected, what's the constitutional excuse for keeping the registry and approval system? That question is the fuel behind the next push. And that brings us to the second half of the headline. Registry block now pushed. In plain terms, that means people are now pushing harder for courts to block enforcement of the NFA registry requirements, at least for the items where the tax becomes $0. Now, I need to be very careful here. A push is not the same thing as a final win. A lawsuit can be filed today, and the final answer can take years. Appeals can drag it out. Judges can pause changes while things move upward. So don't hear registry block pushed and assume you can stop following the rules next week. But wait, there's something even more important. Why this registry push got louder right now is because the argument is getting more concrete. One summary of current developments says plaintiffs introduced new evidence they claim shows ATF examiners denying NFA applications using subjective judgment, not just objective rules. In normal words, they're arguing the ATF is acting more like, we'll decide if we like your reason, instead of, if you qualify, you get approved. That matters because of the Supreme Court's Bruen decision framework. Bruen is the case that forced courts to look at history and tradition for gun restrictions. Under that general idea, a system that gives officials too much discretion can be harder to defend. So this is the part that shocked me. If the registry stays, but the tax becomes $0, you can end up with the worst of both worlds. You still wait, you still file, you still get tracked. But the government no longer has the same, we need this to collect a tax argument. That's why the registry fight is heating up right now. Now let's make this real with a scenario you can picture. Imagine you're a normal person with a normal job. You want a suppressor for hearing protection and range use. You don't want trouble. You just want to do it right. You're standing at a gun counter in late 2025. You have two choices. Choice 1, buy now and pay $200 but get into the approval line earlier. Choice 2, wait until January 1st, 2026 and pay $0 but possibly join a massive wave of new applications. And yes, that wave could be real. Industry sources have warned that a rush could cause shortages or delays. It's basic supply and demand. If the cost drops, more people buy. If more people apply, the same system has more work. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the $0 tax means walk out same day. No, a $0 tax is not the same as deregulation. The most credible summaries still say the NFA process remains for now. That means background checks, paperwork, and approval delays may still happen. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the 5 words that protect you when cops ask about your gun. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, let me break this down for you into the 6 key points you should understand. Point 1, What exactly is changing? The federal $200 NFA tax is scheduled to become $0 starting January 1st, 2026 for suppressors, SBRs, short-barreled shotguns, and AOWs. Machine guns and destructive devices are not part of that $0 tax change, based on the summaries we have. Point 2, what is not automatically changing? The registry, the forms, the fingerprints, the approval system, the legal risk of possessing an unregistered NFA item. The best summaries still say those stay in place for now. Point 3, why the registry block talk is happening. Because the tax being 0 creates a new legal argument. If the NFA is defended as a tax scheme, opponents argue the registry is unconstitutional without real tax collection. Lawsuits are already described and tracked by compliance sources, and the registry is clearly the target. Point 4, why your state law can still hurt you. This part is brutal, and people ignore it. Some states tie suppressor legality to federal NFA compliance. In other words, the state says suppressors are legal only if they are registered under federal law. One industry interview warning says if federal oversight disappears, those states might treat suppressors as illegal until state lawmakers fix it. That means a federal win can create temporary chaos in certain states. Point 5, why rumors are dangerous right now. Gun laws are full of my buddy said advice. That advice can ruin your life. If someone tells you the stamp is gone, so just build it, you need to ask one question. Show me the actual rule change or court order, because a headline is not a defense in court. Point 6, what you should do right now. If you already own NFA items legally, keep your paperwork. Keep copies in 2 places. If you get questioned, proof matters. If you plan to buy, decide what you value more, speed or saving $200. If you wait, you may pay $0 but deal with backlogs. If you buy now, you may pay $200 but possibly avoid the first wave. That's not financial advice, that's just the trade-off people are weighing. Now, quick legal note, this is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. Now, let's talk about the nationwide part. The tax change is national because it's federal law, so if the change takes effect as described, it applies across the country. But the registry block is a different thing. A block usually means a court order, and court orders can be narrow or broad. They can apply to one state, one region, or the whole country. And even when a big order happens, it can get paused on appeal. So here is the safe, reality-based takeaway. Treat the $0 tax as a scheduled change you can plan around. Treat the registry push as a developing legal fight you should track, not a permission slip to ignore current rules. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the 50,000 gun owners who get these updates first. Click subscribe. Now, I want to hit the practical side with one more real-world scenario. Imagine you're at a traffic stop in 2026. You have a suppressor in your range bag. You did everything right, you bought it legally. An officer asks, is that registered? What happens next depends on whether the registry still exists. If the registry still exists, you want proof. Period. If the registry gets blocked later, the question becomes messy because states may react differently and officers may not know the newest rules. That's why staying updated matters. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because confusion can turn into handcuffs fast. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The registry fight is not only about convenience. It's about the basic idea of a federal list. A lot of people don't care about paying $200 as much as they care about being tracked. And the new evidence claim being discussed is basically saying this system is not neutral. If the government argues it is shall issue, meaning you get approved if you meet objective rules, then proof of subjective denials becomes important. That's what some coverage summaries are pointing to. So the big question is simple. If the tax is $0, does the registry survive? We do not have a final court answer yet. That's the fight. And that's why you're seeing registry block get pushed. This information could literally expire after January 2026. Subscribe now because the next video explains exactly what you need to do before that deadline hits. All right, last 30 seconds. Here's the key takeaway. The $200 tax stamp for suppressors and SBRs is scheduled to drop to $0 starting January 1st, 2026. But the NFA process and registry are still described as staying in place for now. At the same time, the push to block the registry is getting louder, with arguments and evidence being aimed directly at the system's legitimacy without a real tax behind it. If you want to protect your rights and protect your freedom, stay plugged in. Subscribe, because I'd rather you hear it from me than from a prosecutor. Legal disclaimer in simple terms. I'm not your lawyer, and this is not legal advice. I'm sharing general education. Your state laws may be different, and your facts matter. If you need advice for your exact situation, talk to a qualified attorney where you live.